time I had tears streaming down my face on a coach full of people because of the ending of the book I just read. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Hi, I'm Jen. Welcome to my channel. There are some books that I read last month that I barely remember anything about, and there are others that I read decades ago that I still regularly think about. My breath still catches when I think about those books, and I kind of been pondering the reasons for that and what it is about some books that just means they really stay with us. One of the most important things, I think, is the time that you read it, reading it at the right time for you. Sometimes that's about the age that you read it at. Sometimes it might be about where you're at in life. But definitely for me, age 14 was when a lot of the things I read were just had such a massive impact on me. I think it's a time when you're really starting to think about who you are as a person and kind of what your place is in the world, what your opinions are, what you think about things. And the books you read, as well as, movies, TV shows, music, all of that kind of starts to shape who you are as a person. And for me, this is the age when I first read Wuthering Heights, and there was so much in this book that was outside of my experience emotionally. Obviously, this kind of dark, obsessive love, really a lot of quite toxic relationships going on, brutality, discrimination, cruelty, things that I was kind of aware of existing, but I didn't have much experience or understanding of them. And reading this book kind of gives you a safe place to sort of explore some of those emotions. It was a book that had a big effect on me at the time, that I kind of thought about these characters, these passions, these emotions a lot. And though over the years and with subsequent rereads, my understanding definitely evolved, developed, matured. It was reading it at that tender age that really was able to kickstart that evolution, and me thinking about things that were very much outside of my experience and being able to take on those different character points of view. When you're 14, you're feeling a lot of feelings, you're thinking a lot of thoughts, and you don't necessarily really understand it all yet. It doesn't all make sense to you. You're just still trying to figure it all out. It's a very turbulent time, let's say. And one of the biggest questions you're probably asking yourself is, who am I? Who am I? Who am I going to be? How am I going to live my life? And a book comes along which maybe stirs up those emotions, stirs up some of those thoughts. It really helps you to work through it, to start to reflect upon these things, to start to figure it out for yourself. And yeah, just safely explore some of those emotions. A lot of the books I read around that age were equally impactful. I think that was around the time that I read 1984. So, it's maybe the first time that you're really starting to think about politics and governments and how the society that we live in is set up and structured, where the flaws might be, how certain things have arisen in the past and where things could potentially go in the future. Another one would be 2001 A Space Odyssey. I read that around that time because I also really got into David Bowie when I was 14, and his music led me to starting reading a lot of sci-fi, naturally Space Odyssey. And that's the kind of aspect of exploring what is life all about, what is our place in this universe, in the grander scheme of things, just kind of really big ideas. And there were other times in your life, so kind of later in my teens, when I was leaving university, making the first leap into independent life, losses in life, big life changes, where the books that you meet at that time, if you meet the right book that says something to the situation you are in, naturally they're going to mean a lot to you. With the best ones, you can come back to them at some of those different points in life, and you might find something new and be able to look at things from a different perspective. Or sometimes it just reminds you of where you've been, where you came from, what your feelings and thoughts were the first time that you read that book. And I think it's really valuable to remember who you were in the past sometimes. The second big thing that I think really sticks with me is books that kind of are a little bit disturbing in some way, the opposite to the comfort reads. I'm not talking necessarily like a kind of horror or something really shocking happens. It doesn't necessarily need to be like a death or something, although it might be. It can just be something that's unexpected that you think, wow. Great example of this is The Remains of the Day. Now, this book had me crying on a coach full of people the first time I read the ending. Slight spoilers ahead if you don't want to know anything, but this is a book that explores themes of kind of regret and a wasted life, essentially. And as I was realizing the ending and experiencing the main character coming to the conclusions around those themes, it was just so devastating to me. I think I was maybe in my early 20s at that point, and it really made me think, I want to make sure that when I am at the other end of my life, or at least in my older decades, that I'm looking back and I'm thinking, I've made the most of it. I've not done things for completely the wrong reasons, or not done things for completely the wrong reasons. And that's something that I have repeatedly come back to. I remember that moment in the book. I remember how I felt, the kind of horror of the lost possibilities of life, and almost sort of helps me refocus on what is important to me and what I want to experience in my life, and just to remind me, yeah, that's not how you want to end up. Flowers for Algernon is another book where it really had that big impact on me, because it's the risk of something that you hold dear about yourself being stripped away and you not being able to do anything about it, which I found just so horrifying to imagine, really unsettling. Yeah, it's not one I'll ever forget. But these moments don't have to be these kind of big philosophical questions. Like, it can just be a tragedy, losing some beloved characters, something really horrific happening. I mean, many such instances in Game of Thrones. I'm thinking the Red Wedding in particular, where it's just so unexpected at that time, where you've really gotten attached to these characters and you think there's kind of a long journey ahead with them, and then that is snatched away from you. Basically, what I'm talking about is books that make you realise, actually, I can't take things for granted. I can't take anything for granted. There are things that maybe I think are the way life is going to be, or things that are part of me, or people who are part of my life, but none of that is guaranteed. It is not. And I find it really important to kind of recognise that just in the way that I live my life. It's about making sure that I don't live a life driven by fear or by other people's perceptions, other people's opinions, but also about making sure that I really think about what I value and what's important to me, and that I prioritise that in my life. And I guess some people manage to figure that out without reading books, but for me, a lot of the books that I've read have helped me to kind of shape my thinking on that and to figure those things out, and I am so grateful. And the final thing that for me personally really makes a book stay with me is just a world I would like to live in. Like, the locations and the characters are so attractive to me that I wish it was real. I'm probably buying artworks, merchandise, rereading. I just want to experience that world so much. A Court of Mist and Fury is a prime example of this for me. The Fae Courts described in this book, absolutely the most wonderful sounding place that could ever exist for me. Honestly, the locations are described, they're just places that I would absolutely love to spend time in. The characters are so much fun. When I first read this book, I really experienced this sense of like, this is somewhere that I feel like I can be safe and I can relax. And to be honest, this book for me also falls into the first category I talked about. I read it after certain experiences in life where it particularly chimed for me. It's a whole other story. But just the locations and the characters being so utterly charming. If you ask me right now, where in all of the fictional worlds that exist would you like to spend Friday night? Inside this book is what I'm saying. Lord of the Rings is another one. Obviously, the fantasy genre does have some advantages with this one, but I still remember reading when the hobbits first arrived at Rivendell, and it just sounded like the most amazing sanctuary where you could find whatever you needed to find there. Just this real sense of beauty and peace. Lothlorien as well in a different way, but just such a magical, evocative place. Like you just want to be there. You just want to experience it. I would give anything to take a walk around Rivendell or Lothlorien. It doesn't have to be a fantasy world though. So another one I really vividly remember is Brideshead Revisited, and just getting that feeling, that first golden summer Sebastian and Charles spend at Brideshead. And, you know, just imagining having like a beautiful, historic, stately home basically to yourself in the high days of your youth. You can get to explore all these rooms and corridors just filled with random curios and artifacts and historical objects. It's a place suggestive of comfort and ease. You can look out across the distant village life but not have to be directly involved with it yourself. Despite everything that later happens in that book, I can still imagine laying out on that roof. And yeah, I'd want to be there. Those are the things that really do it for me. I'd love to hear what books you've carried through your life and why you think that is. What is it about those books that make them so special, that make them stay with you? Drop me something in the comments, let me know.